Hello everybody, we're here doing a quick update because we only had 40 minutes for lunch. We had a continuance of yesterday's witness by the name of Tony Szymanski. And we went over a lot of the things that happened yesterday. It was basically a replay, but there were a couple other aspects brought up. One of the aspects was that all the dispatchers that were involved had clearance to shred documents, to destroy evidence, and so that kind of opened up the investigation for other individuals, because the one that oversees, and her name's Tony, she was the overseer, but she wasn't the one that was in charge of destroying the documents. So, and pretty much everything else that was covered today was just a recap of what was covered yesterday. And we got Vince here.
Hi.
And he's going to try and cover a little more
from yesterday. So I'm Vincent Easley for reallibertymedia.com, and I was at Bunkerville in 2014 and back and forth over the weeks out there. I got here yesterday for the second day of the evidentiary hearings, and the day before Dan Love had testified by videotape, and check out read out news, great article from the day before yesterday. So yesterday in the United States District Court of Nevada, Ammon Bundy's motion for the destruction of documents basically by the order of Dan Love when they were breaking down and leaving over there. So Dan Hill is Ammon's attorney. He had some questions and asked about photos and handwriting scraps on the table. It was dubbed shred everything that's not nailed down, is what Dan Love had said. So there were questions as to what of this information would still be available. Was it in the cloud? This operation plan was called Gold Butte. So the answers were multiple people had copies. They were aware of briefings in this case. Operation plans discuss specifics. Did the BLM have security concerns, risk assessments? Are now they normal, regular part of the operations? And did agents have concerns? Question from Dan Hill, and this was his name. I'll get to his name here in just a minute. And he said yes, there were safety concerns. Then the question was asked if it had been updated or reduced any of that information. Objection from the prosecution, asking what had been assessed. Responses: information such as cow count gathered, finance plans, maps, and so forth. These are shredded, plus summaries of daily plans, daily briefings, daily incident action plan. So moving on to the mechanics of the shredding of the documents, who has access to the shredder? And it was later today, they said, who was it?
It was all dispatchers were all, and there was 6 dispatchers. I only have the name of 4 of them: Scott Hooter, Neil Encumbrance, Randy Wobasser, and the Tony Szymanski. But there were 2 other ones that were authorized for the shredder to, The shredding wasn't supposed to happen all at once. They weren't supposed to. It was supposed to be during the course, after they input the information into the cloud, into the servers. They were supposed to directly destroy the paper documents after the fact. So when they say that to go through and destroy everything, there shouldn't have been anything. Which, everything that was destroyed included the maps on the walls, the handwritten notes on the walls, and basically all and any information was destroyed.
There was also a question yesterday as to Dave Bundy's iPad. that was confiscated when he was arrested, I believe on or about the 9th of April 2014.
Yep.
I don't believe they've any account of it. Also, some laptops. Dan Love had said that
were missing. Well, one of the laptops he said was turned in prior to the occupation, the actual confrontation. One was turned in into the FBI, and then he was issued another one, and that one seems to have gone missing and is no longer available. And what happened with David's iPad, we found out yesterday from the BLM investigator was that claiming that it was turned over to the FBI, and it hasn't been returned, and nobody knows where it's at. So that's where we are with the iPad, and nothing has come of it. So
and also there was questions as to from Ryan Bundy yesterday about the placement of cameras and listening devices, with any of that information had been destroyed. So further from Clayman, I believe this is right, criminal justice information service policy was his role, and then going in to review these accusations of destroying evidence. So it was reviewed in his recommendation for the Criminal Justice Action Declaration. So question, did policy apply to info shredded? The answer was, it's a yes and no answer. Declaration in his recommendation it was more than biometric data. It does not cover all documents shredded. That's what he was saying.
Right.
Info on who had shredded docs was asked, and we covered that. And so he wanted to know why his lawyer Dan Hill asked, why didn't he question Dan Love's discussion to shred everything. He asked the claimant that.
Right.
In quote, that wasn't nailed down, and that was on the 11th. And he was looking at why documents were shredded. He did not identify all the documents destroyed. They came in bags, so all he was looking at was top stuff.
A quick glance, I think, is his exact words. A quick glance.
Yeah, so, I mean, bags, I guess, of stuff. And asked were there any unidentified objects, and then under what circumstances were the documents destroyed, or by what circumstances could they be destroyed? What items were destroyed, not covered by policy? The answer, he does not know the specifics or details. Then so he was talking then about Tony Szymanski, directed the agent to do recommendation.
Right. Well, and I said something about this earlier this morning. So basically what happened is the federal government investigated themselves and found that they had done no wrong, basically.
Well, Ryan, he's been representing himself. His questions were, did you have hands on the documents? His answer was no. He asked, could there have been more than government documents that they had discussed, and his answer was yes. He asked him, who do you report to? The answer, back to the attorney's office,
right.
Talking about
Myrie.
Yeah. And what was the scope of your investigation? Answer is shredding on the shredding document section. So the talk of missing information was a part of what was shredded, and also about the missing audio recordings of April 12th. From 9 a.m. to when BLM left that day. So those
about 9 a.m. to 2:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah, there was supposedly their recording devices accidentally turned off.
All of their recording devices. We're talking all the agents involved, everything going on.
So, protesters arrived on the 12th of April in 2014, and that's of course the most prevalent. The time that's most important. So objection and leeway by Navarro as to about the devices turned off. Response, human error is what was told by Tony Szymanski. What kind of human error? Said he did not know. And what comms shut down? Objection by prosecution. Did this investigation include part of the lack of recordings? He became aware later by Tony. So there was written records, and asked, is there a complete set of records? Objection. Transcription available? Question mark. Overruled. Are there any blocks of time missing? Dispatch log, missing blocks of time, missing time periods. Prosecution did not have access to bags of information. It was asked, no. Who put them out? Does not know. Keith Gordon, chief investigator, was destruction continuous and frequent? No. Why did you ask why they were shredded?
Well, and something was brought up. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, sorry.
But some was brought up today by Tony Skamowski, that they had a company come in that took care of all the waste removal and so on and so forth. They weren't allowed to come into the sensitive area, but she couldn't remember if they dumped them in bags out of the shredder or if the shredders had bags in them. They couldn't remember, but they weren't allowed into the trailers where the shredding took place. So she didn't remember if they put them in bags or if it was already in bags or what have you. So that was covered today.
Okay, so that they're covered. There's also some questions about his training. He had a lot of non-answers. This Clayman fellow,
right?
And it says that PRI, that's protecting the workspace and the people that were there, and others. I think I have that covered a little later. Types of documents destroyed, maps generally available was cited. Were any information on the maps there to exonerate the defense? Objection. Exculpatory information, any apparent? Were any investigative reports, had any of them been shredded, and would they still be available electronically? His answer was yes. And the memorandum of interviews, yes. Objection. Foundation. Judge, do you want to lay down foundation? Yes. Agent is familiar on electronic form. Allegations of shredding to keep them from falling into hostile hands on April 11th. That's we were called hostiles.
Right.
So the primary focus of impound order was not to investigate criminal charges by Clive and Bundy, and the answer to that was no.
Now, they actually said that there was no investigations going on the 12th. So there, but if you remember correctly, there were 20 or so. Dan Love said that there were 20 federal employees. So, and we all know what Federal Bureau of Investigation is. So if there was no investigation taking place, then why were the FBI even there? So it's all kind of contradictory to itself, just like any of these proceedings, any of these situations. And I also wanted to bring up the BLM investigator. At one point, I don't exactly remember what he said. When he lost all credibility with me, in my mind, was when he said that he took Myrie's word on faith.
Yeah,
and he's an investigator. His job is to investigate the facts, not take anything on faith. Nothing on faith.
Especially coming from the prosecution.
Exactly. So, Myrie's the one that initiated this individual to do this investigation and then gave him information.
And direction.
And direction and limitation. So, why was this investigation even put forth? And none of this information was handed over to the defense. That's why we're here now doing this investigation. It's because the defense does not have, that information is not available. And so they're wondering why. And obviously it's because either it's not been handed over or the documents have been shredded. So we're trying to find out where this information has gone, why the human error for all of these individuals, took place.
Yeah, we did see some leaked video over several of them, and their conversations about which one are you going to shoot first and so forth.
Yeah, oh, well, that's been all over the internet.
Yeah. So the gathering was to be halted on the 11th of April to the 12th. He says that Clayman says no crime scene or criminal actions. It was not within his scope of his investigation, but he did later say that there was some investigation into some criminal activity. So how he knows that or where he contradicted himself. So Ammon Bundy then returned to the courtroom after lunch, and he was kicked out because he and Ryan took another beat down. So he tried to express his concerns in the courtroom, and Judge Navarro had him removed. Let me skip down a little bit here. I understand Ryan's arm was broken. He's probably dealing with it. So the reference to the motion, affidavit, or motion attached from Keith Gordon, he looked at that, never sought to speak with a person in charge, no defined start, no end time. The shredding operation buried. Myrie asked, why didn't he seek more personnel to find out why they wanted to carry out this operation? So he was just going on Myrie's direction.
Yeah, that's the stuff that he took on faith.
Yeah. So he was asked where, the credibility of who was doing the shredding, and basically was it a direct order from anybody? And he said, Clayman said he just heard it from each individual person to person, and that was inconsistency. That what had occurred was seemingly normal. He did not ask if and by whom the order came from. Cannot say one-to-one that documents exist in electronic documents. So he says they do, and now he says they don't. He did not look at each document, and the investigative report is intact, he says, and has been available to the BLM only. As to others, he does not know. The focus on gathering of cattle was what he was there to. In enforcement of the court orders is why they were there. He was there. So supervision of gathering, yes. Case materials or to the end? No, not to the end. Not for everybody to have, as far as government assets and so forth. So Ryan Bundy goes on and asks during the gather, reports were gathered. Are y'all going back in? Oh, it is?
Leave your phone with Jamie
yes.
if you can. We already
We're gonna head back in real quick, and we'll get back. I'll get back on, or we'll get back on after court. So I need to get going. Thanks for watching. Yeah, definitely conflict of interest. That's what this whole situation is, man. So I'm gonna get off here, and we got to get back into court. Peace. God bless.